Can I just talk about how good you look by that mic? I mean, that is a good image right there.
What are you talking about? I always look good.
This is true,
good.
Brian, buddy.
Although
you're a handsome man. But
I am going for the fringe flying hair look. I got my hair growing out a little bit.
Yeah, and the no shave thing. I just thought he was living out of a box.
That's a. Thank you. It's always good to stop by, Philip. Let's get into our episode.
Compliment to just thwap.
Welcome to Neighbors Don't Knock, the show that brings you hilarious, unapologetic conversations only these neighbors can have. Join them and guests in their weekly mission to expand the neighborhood. Now, here's your hosts, Brian Chambers and Philip Goffrey.
What's going on, all you loyal neighbors out there?
Hey.
What's up? Hey.
Wow, that thing really picks up that hey.
Yeah, I know, right? Ooh. So I want to welcome you guys to the show. If this is your first time joining the neighborhood or you're just a regular around here, we want to thank you.
Welcome back
welcome
to our regular listeners and viewers.
That's right. We do want to thank you guys. Please hit that like and subscribe button and make sure that you catch every new episode that we drop on Friday, as well as check out the YouTube content we have going on.
As always. And do spread the word, please. As always, we are available anywhere you get your podcasts, and we are putting out more and more video content. If you know anybody who you think would be entertained by us neighbors, send them our links.
Yeah. And this week, we're going to be tackling a little bit of anti-aging. Also, we have a new segment of neighbor tweets that's going to happen towards the end, so you're not going to want to miss that. But also, like, subscribe, follow, and also go to our pod inbox to leave a free audio message and leave your neighbor tweet or neighborly advice on there, because I'd love to hear it.
And you never know. It just might wind up on the show. So that can be a lot of fun. It's a really fun way for you, the viewer and the listener, to interact with us, the hosts.
Yeah. Okay, let's get all that shit out of the way. Yep, we took way too much time with that. But we are going to jump into talking a little bit about anti-aging today.
Yeah, this is cool stuff. This is like right in my wheelhouse of really sort of not only geeky science stuff, but also really big ethical questions. Like do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
I mean, it really, yes, it does. You're right. There's a lot of, I guess we call this is our ethics class today. Philosophy 101 or ethics like combined.
Yeah,
I don't know which
Gattaca. Neighbors Don't Knock.
So, So, Philip, I know this is a big topic for you.
Absolutely. And where the gears got turning with all this is I came across a Time magazine article in my kind of news conglomerate deal that talks about a recent breakthrough in anti-aging technology. So the short of this, you can look this up if you want online. You can go to Time Magazine, and this article was called "Scientists Have Reached a Key Milestone in Learning How to Reverse Aging," and it was written on January 12th by Alice Park. The bottom line is this group of scientists for this research facility have figured out that there's a blueprint in your cells that tell them when to basically replicate themselves and live on and when to die off. And they think that they can turn that off.
So for our neighbors and everybody listening, our listeners, this is not a pill. This is not a cream.
This is not available for humans yet.
Yes, this is not a product peddling ad right now.
No. This is actually a group of scientists that in mice so far have figured out a way to reverse the aging process in cells.
Poor mice. Mice always get a bad hand.
I know. Especially this group, this poor mouse was like
hand.
ready to go, ready to meet its maker, and all of a sudden, poof, it's alive.
I can see the land of cheese.
But it brings up so many interesting questions, doesn't it? I'll ask you the first one. If you could undergo some kind of a treatment that would keep you from getting older, that would prolong your life for fun, let's just call it indefinitely.
For fun.
For fun.
Okay. All right.
Would you do it? Would you want to live forever?
I don't know. On the spot, I don't know if I would or not.
It's a tough question.
Because now I have to ask a couple parameters about this. So with having the choice, do you get to choose when you get to stop aging to
That's
live?
a really good question.
You know what I
do
mean?
you
Or-
arrested at 35 years old, 25? I don't know.
Because if you're choosing and for me, if you're choosing when in your life that you could maintain your age or your, I guess your youth or whatever level of living
Right.
that you can at that
This
point.
is like Benjamin Button, right? Where you're going backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Where you have to completely So if I could choose, I probably would. I probably
Okay,
I
let
probably
me-
would because the amount of time that you would have allows you to experience so many things that the world has to offer that we have a list of things that we never get to, right? Oh, I wanted to learn another language. Oh, I wanted to learn to bake. I wanted to learn to knit. Oh, I wanted to learn to play the piano. I wanted to, like little things, right?
You're making an interesting assumption, though. You're making the assumption that your brain has unlimited rather, storage space. What if it doesn't? We don't know.
Well, okay, that's true, but based on the fact that none of this is real,
Well, it's kind of real.
Yes, I mean,
It's getting close to real.
All right, well, you posed a question, but you didn't give me enough parameters, so I'm gonna play with these.
Okay.
So let's assume.
Outline your parameters. Well,
So let's
what
assume-
age range are you arresting yourself at or going back to?
I would probably say 33.
Okay, 30. Wow, that's very specific. That's not even. I think April of 2000. And no, okay, so 33 years old. That's around when you would, around 33.
I feel
It was a good year, apparently.
No, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if it was 33 was a good year or not. I just feel and I 33 just because there were 2 threes. I don't know. It rang out to me.
The threes.
the
It's all about the threes.
The threes, right?
My daughter would love that. That's
The
her lucky
threes.
number, 3.
So-
Thinking of you, Chloe Bear.
But I feel, you have lived enough to know things and have learned things, and you don't have that youthful spunk, but you're not at an age where you're kind of in between all that. So it's like be able to enjoy the best of both in the age.
People take you
range.
seriously. You're no longer a kid that knows nothing.
Yeah,
right? There's something
exactly.
about being in your early 30s.
Yeah,
You're respected.
yeah. You're like,
Sure.
like I've learned something.
Sure,
like,
you can be someone's
hear
boss
me
and they're not like
now.
super angry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Hear me now. So I don't know. That feels like a comfortable.
Okay, so 33.
or at least in my early mid 30s.
And your answer is yes, you would do it. So you have no like religious issues with this or anything like that. Because I
No,
imagine there's quite a bit of that comes into play here.
No, I don't think I have. I mean, if this is, I feel like if that was supposed to happen, then my religious views would say, well, that you are supposed to do that.
There you go. Okay, so that's
You know
how
what I
you
mean? So that's how I can justify
philosophies
that. Yes,
line
that's
up.
how I can justify the religious aspect of that. But I mean,
Okay, let me throw a curveball your way.
Okay.
All right. So you've been given the option. The magical scientist shows up and goes, "Hey, you won the age lotto, and we are going to play with your epigenome." By the way, is specifically what these scientists are messing with. Your epigenome, epigenetics.
Okay.
We're going to modify your epigenome to reverse aging to 33. But here's the catch: only you. Not your wife, not your family, not your friends.
and again, that's the catch.
Yeah, Dorian Gray, tell me about this mirror.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So,
That's the rub, right? That's difficult.
That is the rub because you go your whole life. At what point do you start reverting to that? Like, do I get to that age and then I just stop, or are you saying that I go through an entire lifetime and then revert back?
We were at a dinner once with my parents recently, actually, in the past couple of months, and something similar to this came up in conversation. And my dad made the comment of, "Gosh, if I could do it all over again, if I could come back knowing what I know now, but younger, I would just love to do that." My mom looks at me, she goes, Can you come back knowing what you knew when you were around 40? Because I'm pretty sure you've forgotten a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah.
If you come back knowing what you know now, we're in trouble. It was really funny.
Well, okay, so but you kind of pose a different scenario. So I assume now, based on what you were talking about, that I would go a full lifetime and then revert back, versus stopping at that age. Because if I'm and so not to jump back off my answer, but if I'm stopping at whatever age I'm going to be at, that's fine for me. Like I would still roll the dice. Yeah, it's going to be hard because you're going to see people that are not staying around and things like that.
Yeah,
So
this is the vampire problem, right?
yeah, exactly. So I understand that. I would be curious, but I also feel with my personality, I would be more of a traveler. I would be more of a, you know what I mean? Like my lifestyle would be very different.
Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper down this rabbit hole. So we have your answer. Just so our listeners know, if you're curious about my answer, I don't know. It's very difficult. I think that my ego would probably come into play, and I probably would choose to prolong my life, if not live forever. But
I wouldn't want to go an entire life and then revert back.
well, so that's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming that the way that the epigenome works and the way that this gene modifying technology works so far in these mice is they're able to take something that has aged, mess with the epigenetics, the epigenome, and that blueprint changes so the cells tell themselves, okay, reproduce in a healthier state, right? So they can do things like reverse degeneration in the eyes of these mice that have aging-related, like macular degeneration and things like that, aging-related problems. So now they're going to move on to primates. This is happening this year with this particular research group. And they're hoping to get licensed soon to move on to human trials. So I'm assuming, let's say they hit the Holy Grail, and they can actually reverse aging. My assumption here is that it would be a treatment like you go a certain distance, and then you undergo this treatment, and it dials back the clock on like your organs, your skin, your eyes, your liver, things like that.
Because
Now,
I imagine you have to be a certain age, or your body has to mature a certain amount and have a certain amount of growth before it can take on anything like that.
Sure. Epigenetics are weird, right? Epigenetics are the things that tell your fingernail to be a fingernail and your eye to be an eye, your nose to be a nose. Now, this brings up a really interesting kind of point and segue for us in this conversation. Who gets to do this if they do find a way to reverse
it's
aging?
going to be it's all about money.
Yeah,
it's going to be it's going to be the 1% that can afford it, because and that's honestly a little scary, because those that are in the 1% that can afford something like this, and again, there's not an actual number out there. Let me just put that out there for the viewers. Not that I'm aware of, unless I'm wrong. I'm not aware of a number.
So there's not an actual number, because there is no technology available that we know of to humans yet involving this stuff. But interestingly enough, you hit the nail on the head. Not even the 1%. We're talking the mega rich, the billionaires around the world.
I mean, okay, let's put it in perspective of something that's actually happening right now, right? People are going to space. Commercial tickets are being purchased to go to space. And they've had a couple of people go up in capsules, orbit, civilians, right? What are the prices on those?
Sure.
We're talking, what, 250,000 to $1 million, right? Or somewhere. I guess we'd have to look that up. But you're talking probably anywhere between 250,000 to $500,000 just for a 5-minute ride.
Yeah. Now, although we do not have an actual number associated with it, because the tech supposedly doesn't exist for humans yet, what we do have, right where in your wheelhouse here, you're talking about space travel and the people who are doing space tourism. Mr. Jeff Bezos from Amazon, the ex-CEO of Amazon, is one of the largest investors in the world in this anti-aging tech and research.
We don't need to see him live for forever.
In fact, according to a recent Financial Times article, Mr. Bezos made a sizable investment into a startup that has to do with this. The startup is called Autos Lab. All they do is focus on cellular rejuvenation to restore cell health, add resilience, with the goal of reversing all diseases and anti-aging. Interestingly, it doesn't talk about how much money he himself has invested. There's a couple of Russian oligarchs who are also investing in this. Go figure. But what it does talk about is they're poaching scientists for this group from around the world. Guess what the starting salary is for the scientists on this project?
Like 800,000?
Starting at $1 million.
Oh, is it?
Starting
it's close.
at $1 million.
I wasn't far off. I mean,
so you can imagine whatever the investment in this technology is, it is sizable to be able to afford that kind of incentive program just to bring in the minds they want behind this.
Well, honestly, I'm going to say this. It somewhat justifies a little bit more of the product to have it that expensive. Now, because can
justify or like legitimize?
Well, I guess legitimize is correct. Is the correct way to say it. You're right. I think that is honestly a little bit better, because if you can imagine, let's say everyone on the block right here for $10, you could anti-age or get the serum, right? Can you
But wait, that's not all. Buy now.
yeah, exactly. Can you
Yes.
imagine how
I'm picturing like Mike Liddell in a My
I'm
Pillow
sure
commercial.
there's a screenplay or a movie that has been done about this or in the works or something. Can you imagine the way the world would be at that point? Because I think that it's also very dangerous. Certain people I don't think should be allowed to do this. But if you're talking about
Well, who
trying
gets to decide that?
Well, again, I think if you're using, and I guess I retract my answer. I guess I personally, as a personal choice, would want to see what would happen and be able to do it. You know what I mean? Just to experience other things. I definitely would if I had the option. Do I think it should be available to just anybody? I will say no.
Well, okay, but let's break this down.
Well,
With any massive technological breakthroughs, right? The first people that will be able to take advantage of it are most definitely the mega wealthy. There's no doubt about it. And what does that mean? What does that mean, right? If a guy like Elon Musk or a guy like Jeff Bezos or Tim Cook can buy into this anti-aging technology and live longer, if not forever, well, it means that their wealth continues to grow.
Well, exactly. And
Right.
I think at that point, that becomes, honestly, there needs to be a special approval, call it an approval court.
That's scary.
It is a little scary though, but you're not talking about.
There's lots of sci-fi movies and books about this very topic.
I know,
that's scary stuff.
But I'm just saying that, and maybe because there needs to be some way of monitoring it and not just letting it get out of control. There really does, because you're not talking about taking away someone's life. You're talking about a choice that someone wants to make. Now, if you're an astronaut and trying to get to Mars or beyond, I can completely see this being something legit.
I see where
you're
going with it. Interesting ethics line that you're drawing. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
If somebody is bettering mankind, and then they get to,
that's what I'm saying.
But again, some committee has to decide that, right? And that's interesting.
I think you should apply for it, like almost like a visa.
Would there be a lottery system involved? Then there must be, right?
Maybe.
Interesting stuff.
Maybe. I think it would be a little bit easier to be able to look at everything as a case by case, because obviously you don't want some tyrant or someone that's going to live forever, that's sitting in power, that's never going to.
Sure. And in theory, if these ultra rich were able to do this, not only would their wealth continue to grow, but when it comes to being a plutocrat, right, which is somebody whose power is derived strictly from their money, what happens when their wealth grows exponentially on an unlimited timeline? Their influence and their power grows too. So do the mega rich then basically become the leaders of the free world?
Well, I mean, you pretty much painted the picture of yes.
Bleak, isn't it? It's very bleak.
So it's
and then are there like huge protests and stuff? Like, are there religious groups that get together
there will
freak
be.
Of course,
it would just be. I mean, I don't know. It's like reverting. It's like bringing back the 70s or the 60s. All over again, just on a way different scale.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So okay, I'm curious what you, our listeners and our viewers, think about this. I would love to see your comments about this very topic. So please post up, leave us pod inbox. Use the comment section below. I'll leave with one parting thought about this that I had this morning. That's very bleak, a very dark picture. Let's just say we could do this. Let's say that society takes on, embraces this technology, and everyone has a much, much longer lifespan than we've ever had in human history.
Well, I mean, we do right now.
It's like not huge, but it's getting there.
But people are living a lot longer than they used to.
But interestingly enough, people are living longer, but not necessarily with a higher quality of life. So we have to assume that this is a magic technology where not only do you get to extend your life, but you get to do so in a more enjoyable and healthy way. You don't have to deal with like disease for a longer period of time. You get to live longer and live healthy and actively. Now, what happens to life as a precious thing? Do we become suddenly more fearful and more protective of ourselves as a species?
Like a cat with 9 lives. Like, nah, I'll do it
well,
next decade.
Sure. Like look at the extreme sports. Look at things like skydiving and bungee jumping, right?
Can you imagine Tom Brady would play football for forever?
He would. He totally would. He totally would.
Tom would be like 80 years old playing.
Yeah.
It'd be like the bicentennial of the National Football League, and Tom would be up there. I was like, yep, I remember back in
back in my divorce, which was like 133 years ago. Let's see. But it's interesting. Do you think people would still roll the dice like they do now? Or do you think it would be, oh God, I can't risk this? Because if you can live forever, you're not going to dodge the freight train that hits you and takes you out, right?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily that. Well, you make a good point, but I still think life would still be life because you're anti-aging or you're able to maintain youthfulness or your body can be preserved longer to go through life doesn't mean that you can't get killed in a car wreck.
Right.
Or by skydiving or a bunch of, it's not like the guy's going to well, I'm base jumping today. Screw the bungee cord,
I don't know. I wonder what it would do, though, because right now we sort of approach life, a lot of us, with this mentality of, well, I got 100 years on this rock anyway. So, I'm going to make the best of it. We hope so, at least. But
I think that's a mindset, man. I really think that people approach that trying to be healthy and positive, saying, well, I'm going to live life and experience life. But in the back of everyone's mind, I really believe that we are. It's like, life is precious. I really think that we all believe that.
I wonder what happens when it's less precious, right? When the timer is not quite
See, but I don't think that it's
loud.
Not less precious just because you're here longer.
Maybe it becomes more precious. I don't know.
I mean, if you're talking about being, like you said, it would just be me was the circumstance that you love. I was the only one that'd be able to do this, right? And the example you quoted me. So if
he is legend.
So yeah, right. So if I had to watch my wife age, it's like think about Captain America. Who had to go back. I mean,
I love the way went to Captain America.
Steve Rogers, man, from the ice. He was right. I mean, get brought. You know what I mean?
It's heartbreaking.
So he had to relive a lot of those heartfelt memories or things that he had to realize that people that he loved and things he had done that were no longer there and gone, right? So he had to adjust. If you're talking about something like that, life probably, like you said, becomes more precious. I don't think it becomes less precious. I think it actually becomes more precious.
Yeah, maybe it does. I wonder if we have like a Gattaca thing that would happen too, right? With like the brother with the broken back, all like shunned by society, holed up in his house because everyone else is perfect, but he's not. It's very interesting stuff.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think? I guess the question is for you. Would you do this? Do you think that this is something that should even be explored? I mean, are we like the makers of Jurassic Park? Are we playing God? Life will find a way, right? So
lines must be crossed.
So let us know what you think in the comments. Neighbors Don't Knock is produced by C&G Communications. C&G specializes in small batch voiceover and video production for commercial media, podcasting, radio, and more.
Combining years of experience in podcasting, acting, and sales, C&G offers big media products at small business prices.
That's right. To learn more, visit their Facebook page or email them directly at admin@cngcommunications.com. Okay, so I want to jump into a little segment, which I'm very excited about. This segment is called Neighbor Tweets. That's right. We scour the internet looking for those tweets by those neighbors. Today's neighbor tweet comes from Chungled Down Ken. He says, fun fact, I stand on my back porch in my underwear each night while the dogs do their business as a power move against weird neighbors and the cameras they have. Yeah, they could call me out, but that would be admitting to their voyeurism. I mean, do you stand by this neighbor? I mean, this is an odd. I feel like this is an odd tweet.
Chungle down, Ken, you do you, buddy, but I'm going to reach out on a limb here and just say that I think you have a little bit too much time on your hands if you're giving it this much thought. That is a very thoughtful thing to do and a little weird.
Do you realize if you guys are sitting there on your back porch, I don't know, do a lot of people really do that? Do you just do something knowing that you're just making a statement to other neighbors so that they won't mess with you later? I mean, do you do that to yours?
No, but my neighbors have been mooned before by somebody in my family, so we might cross lines now and again.
You mean somebody mooned your family?
No.
One of your neighbors?
One of my family members mooned my neighbors.
Oh, one of your family members mooned a neighbor. Did they say anything?
You know who I'm talking about. They did say something, in fact. They laughed, thankfully.
Thankfully,
yeah.
Okay.
I imagine that could have been a police call otherwise. Thankfully, we're good friends with the neighbors, but yeah.
Well, was it?
It wasn't so much a power move. It was more a playful move.
Was it outdoors or was it like through a window or something?
Outdoors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
up at one of their balconies.
Okay, so I could say indecent exposure.
Indeed.
So, okay.
Yeah.
But I guess well, it was very intentional, obviously. but it's not like
I do believe there
it's
was
not
a passion of the moment thing involved.
like the curtain was down and you're just like out of the shower, naked, air drying around the house, right?
But there are a lot of people that do that. When I was living up
I'm not gonna lie, I love doing that if I can, but I am always aware that we live on a 4th floor, and at night with lights and curtains open, you can see into our place.
When I was living up in Jersey City and spent quite a lot of time there and in New York City, you often find people that would do various personal things with the lights on and the curtains open on purpose. So, there's definitely people like to be exhibitionists now and again. So,
okay, so I have one more that I wanted to put out there. This one was by I'm trying not to laugh too much about this one because I thought this was hilarious. By Ed Hill. So at King Ed Hill. He says,
King Ed.
Yeah.
So, Your Majesty.
I know, right? So he says, my neighbor would play his trumpet at night, so I changed my Wi-Fi name to, quote, I can hear you. He changed his to, quote, I know.
I like these guys.
So,
kudos to King Ed and his neighbor. Yeah.
So, do you think that a neighbor? Do you agree with tweeting this just to make sure that I don't know, man. It's very passive aggressive.
It is very. It reminds me quite a bit of like passive aggressive notes that you can find online. You can spend hours going down that rabbit hole, right? People post up passive aggressive notes their neighbors and friends and coworkers and things like that leave.
I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's luck that he noticed, the Wi-Fi, or
I can hear you. I know. I love that. Well done, gentlemen. Well done. You made my day.
It is a very civil way to do it, but also a very passive aggressive way to do that.
Yeah.
So maybe not put the tweets out there and knock on somebody's door, or don't knock and find out what the hell is going on and say, hey, dude, don't play between these hours. I don't know. I don't know. There something needs to be squashed here because, and maybe they're playful. Maybe at this point it's very playful. I don't know.
It is interesting. It is very interesting. I'm curious to what you all think. If you've ever had something that your neighbor had done that warranted you putting it up as a tweet or a social media post, share it below. I'd love to know.
Yeah, and that does it this week for Tweets by Neighbors.
I feel like we just rolled up in an El Camino.
So
lowriders, like swangers hanging off the rims,
All right. Well, Philip, I think that we've exhausted this one a little bit too much today. Maybe enough, maybe not enough. I don't know. It always feels shorter and shorter every time we meet.
Well, we're a little bit older, so hopefully that anti-aging tech comes about sooner than later so we can dial back the clock. But thank you so much for sticking with us on this
How
one.
long do you think Neighbors Don't Knock would last if we did that? That would be our thing.
6,201st season.
Exactly. It's like, damn, you look great for 805 or whatever. And it's like, yep, that's what we get for not knocking, man. That we're like eternity.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah. 120 years ago. Oh, God, we were so immature. The show was so young.
We really came into our own that season.
At 33.
Anyway, you guys follow, and subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Friday. We want to throw a thank you and a shout out to Christina Wells, last week's neighbor that stopped by. She's going to be in town performing here in Houston as Matron Mama Morton in the National Tour of Chicago. So break a leg. We love you. Make sure you guys check out other episodes. There's some great stuff. Great neighbors.
Absolutely. And we still have sponsorship opportunities available for season 6. So reach out, admin@neighborsdon'tknock.com.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Out.